Okay,
There we go. Now we're up.
okay. Hold on just a sec. I don't know what happened to the share mode on here. Okay, that's what I want. Sorry about that. Andrew, we are doing pictorial color first.
Okay.
And can you tell me what you want or tell everybody what you look for in a good pictorial color image?
Pictorial color, number one's going to be impact. I'm going to be looking for something to jump out off the screen at me and invite me to come into the frame and keep looking for more. I'm going to be looking for style and composition, creativity. In this category, I'm keeping in mind we don't have the same rules that restrict us to what we can and can't do as we would in a reality base with the reportage or photojournalistic category. So I'm not going to be watching for things like that, but I'm going to be looking for the creativity style more than I would um, like that. There's still going to be storytelling and technique I'm going to be watching, but the overall impact and presentation is going to be what's important to me.
This is our first image. We have 25 images, and you gave this one an 8, and why?
I scored this an 8. This has all the elements that I'm looking for in it. The focus is tack sharp. The rose is not dead center in the image, or at least it doesn't seem that way. That there's enough of a difference in the shape where it's not symmetrical. You've got the nice bokeh in the background where the focus falls off with the depth of field. You've got the leaves in the back that act as both leading lines and framing elements to kind of bring your attention into the center. The concentric circles of the petals of the rose just invite you to just gaze deeply into it. You've got the nice sharp water droplets on the blossom that hold the interest. This is very well handled, exposed well. The color's nice, and it just has all the elements I like.
You gave this one an 8 also.
I did. This also has great impact. This does have symmetry, but I think it works given the subject matter. You've got the galactic core of the Milky Way coming right through the middle of the frame, but it also kind of points to the arch and the bridge. Yeah, that was a nice compositional element I like. It's in focus everywhere it needs to be. There are no blown out highlights. Even in the dark trees, there's not a loss. You can still see some detail in those shadows. So it could have been okay with silhouette, but I think the way it's handled now is nice. I'm not sure if the maker added the lights themselves or if that was the elements that were there. But this all works together. You've got nice texture in the bridge that works well against a well-exposed Milky Way sky.
This you gave a 7 to.
Scored this a 7. This is a nice image. It has nice colors. Um, it's got nice sharp elements in it. This one, what's missing is the center of interest. There's a lot going on in this image. It's very busy and it's tough to focus on one element that kind of keeps your eye focused on the image long enough to get an idea of what's going on. There's multiple textures and shapes and colors. Uh, did a good job of having the focus and the exposure drop off in the background to isolate what's in the foreground, but it's still very busy. Uh, Good color balance. It was lit well. It tells an interesting story, but it's just a little busy for my eyes.
Okay. This you gave a 6 to.
Gave a 6 to this. There's not a lot of storytelling going on here. It's an interesting specimen piece. The blown out background is kind of distracting, makes it difficult to focus on what's going on in the texture of the seed pod here. The texture and the color is well preserved within the seed pod. I'm going to guess those are the seeds off to the right um, that are a little distracting. It's not, I don't think it adds to the composition, um, but just the overall, it's just a loss of just a place in the image itself is what held me back from a higher score.
This she gave a 9 to.
This one has all of the elements, and this jumped off the screen at me. This is wonderful use of the blur. Um, Kudos to the subject for standing still long enough that you got a nice blur on the water, on the sand, and then the waves, but the subject is tack sharp. I like the placement of the subject in between the two horizons, between the horizon between the water and the sky, and then the water and the sand. The reflection of the subject in the wet sand is also very well handled, well exposed. You've got good detail, nice and sharp in the subject herself. The sky kind of adds to the way the sand and the water is. Everything put together just wowed me on this one. I liked every element of this.
This she gave a 7 to.
This has a lot of elements that I like. A lot of color going on. Focus is nice and sharp on the fruits. Just a little oversaturated from what I can see here. Kind of an awkward composition, if you will. I almost would have liked to see a taller, skinnier sky to give a little more of the rainbow and give a little more movement to the rainbow itself. The way it's cropped here, it's kind of static. But I do like the way the colors work together, and it's kind of interesting the balance of the texture in the leaves and the fruit against the softness of the rainbow. It's got some nice elements to it, but not enough of a story here for my tastes.
Gave this an 8.
Gave this an 8. I had to remember what category we're in. I originally had some issues with it, but then there's a lot of creativity that went into this. I think the texture worked very well. This kind of gives me a nostalgic feel with the color balance of the beach behind the ladies here. Very calming, very soothing. You got the story in the background, the story within the story. You've got the guy with the metal detector walking along the beach. I can hear this image with the waves crashing in and even the seagull coming through. The placement of the bird was in a very nice place. And just all the elements work together here to let your eye flow through the image and keeps your view inside. There's a lot of elements here that worked well for me.
7.
Gave this a 7. I like the story that's told here. We're looking over his shoulder into the room. There's a lot of detail in the room. Again, the treatment that was given to this there's a softer focus and some subdued colors going on here, but there's still some sharp focus on the benches, and you can see the texture in the floor. It's kind of a mixture. It's like you're gazing into the past here. Obviously, you've got the paintings on the wall and the ceiling and the ornate decorations that give you a sense of time and place that tell a nice story. I would have liked to see a little more detail and some highlights toned down in the windows. There's a little bit of a glow that's kind of distracting. Your eye goes to the brightest part of the image, and I want to look and see what's inside the windows there. This could have been toned down a little bit to keep my gaze inside the room. So those reasons I'm at a 7.
You also gave this one a 7.
I did give this a 7. This is an interesting study in shape and line. I would have liked to see a little detail in the shadows. The silhouette doesn't work well here. I didn't feel with the sky. You've got the gradation in the sky that goes from the dark into the light of the sunset or sunrise here, and then just a very abrupt line that goes to the hills, and the dark is very distracting. The moon's well captured. I do like the focus on the moon, and the sky is pleasing, but like I said, we'd like to see a little more detail in the shadows in the ground part of it to tell a little more of the story and give us a better sense of place.
You gave this a 7.
This is a nice study of texture, also a good sense of place, especially given where we all live. You're in the lower desert, I'm in the high desert, so this feels like home to me also. But again, it's kind of a static image. There's not a lot of story going on here. Um, the lines in the rocks do act as leading lines and bring your gaze to the plant. It's a nice image of the specimen. But the highlights in the rocks are kind of distracting and compete with my attention for what's going on with the plant. And I think the plant is the star of the show here. So maybe a little bit of him yet, maybe pull some of those highlights down and give the color some pop. And I think there'd be a better image here. But there's a lot here for a good start.
You gave this an 8.
I do love the jellies. This is well handled and very imaginative. Kind of gives you a sense of wonder here with the way you can see them dancing around in the water as you watch them. There's an interesting mixture here of the colors of the jellyfish here in the foreground, and then you've got the background that looks like a whole different world. You've got different focus levels. There was a texture that was applied here that gives a nice artistic touch to it, and just kind of lets my imagination run wild here. There's a lot of creativity that was put into this, and keeps my gaze within the image here. And I enjoyed looking at it. I gave this an 8.
You gave this a 7.
I did give this a 7. This is a nice sunset piece. I like the silhouettes of the trees against. Again, this gives a good, strong sense of place. The sky, I know the sky is the star of the show here. I think it is a little overpowering. I think if we cropped, I don't know, a good third of the image off here and made this a nice panorama, nice letterbox, I think it would tell a lot more of the story. You've got the vertical elements of the trees that work well together and the parallel lines that are pleasing with the composition. You've got nice texture in the clouds, different shades that give the ambiance of the sunset. But that much of a sky in this, I think, was a little overpowering, and it might be a stronger image if it was cropped a little differently. But it does have some good, strong elements to make it a nice, pleasing image.
You gave this a 9.
I did give this a 9 when I went through and I buzzed through the images quickly one at a time to kind of at the beginning before I gave time to them, and I think this jumped out at me. I love the action captured here. I love the V shape of the different kids jumping into the water. You've got the shadows up against the bridge that are mimicking the body position of the kids, but the sun's coming in a different angle than we see here, so it's almost like it's another group of kids jumping in. This energy just conveys energy and fun. The color palette was pleasing. Just everything about this. I mean, you put us here in this image, and I think it worked well. The only suggestion I would make, especially given the category, get rid of that graffiti. The graffiti, if this was in a reality-based category, leave it. But this, I don't think it adds to the story here. But that's the only correction I would make. This is just a wonderful image all the way around.
You gave this an 8.
As stated before, I am a sucker for a Milky Way. This was handled well. It's tough to do. That you can tell that there's a lot of ambient light here, and that's frustrating. But you were able to capture a lot of the detail in the sky still, and you got the detail of the elements in the foreground. You got the trees, you got the buildings that I don't think really detract that much from the image. This is a good piece that gives you a sense of where you are. And for you folks, I suspect this is your backyard, and this gives you a sense of home. And I totally get that, and I respect that. There are some elements in the sky that could be looked at as distractions, but the clouds, I think, kind of add to it. They don't really detract from the clarity of the sky. And looking at the title of it, Perseid Milky Way, I see some meteors there. So this is a fitting title, and it adds to the story. So I gave this an 8.
You gave this an 8.
Give this an 8 also. This is a good storytelling image. Um, you've got the girls waiting, as the title states, waiting for dad. But there's still motion to this image. You've got the vehicle in there. You've got the poster in the background, which at first is kind of distracting, but the shape of whatever that is that those people are standing by kind of mimics the shape of the little cart on the bicycle here, and you've got the two people there and the two people here, and so the parallels are there. It's kind of interesting. I like the way those two elements work together. The subjects are placed well in the image. You've got room for them to travel out of it. So the framing as well. The composition was done nicely. It's sharp and in focus. I like the colors that work together. So this is a good storytelling image, even in an open color category. You've told a story here, and it was handled well.
You gave this a 6.
This is 6. This was not as dynamic an image as we've seen already. It's handled well. It's exposed well. There's nice color in the building there, but there's no real story here. I was struggling to see what this image was telling us. It's a nice serene park, but I think there's some elements here that either moving the camera a little bit one way or the other, or cropping it out, or even just again in this category, you can remove elements. The trash can just kind of takes my attention away. The van in the background could be removed, or again, if we just change the camera angle, eliminated from the frame completely. Um, the building also seems to smack in the middle of the frame, which I don't think in this case is where it needs to be. It gives a nice sense of peacefulness and calm in this serene environment, but just this is a picture it's struggling for a story.
Give this a 7.
I like this a little better. This does have a story. I love the element of threes here. You've got the three little houses here. Um, the bird up in the corner tells part of the story, but I would be curious to see it without that bird. Again, in this category, that is allowed. Um, I'd like to see more of this place. This is one of those images that kind of gives you just what's your appetite on the sense of where it is, but I'd like to see more now and learn more about what's going on here. Um, got the title of Fishing Shacks, which helps. But again, I'd like to see a little more of the environment to tell the story. Maybe some people, some fisher people in there to help us tell the story. But this was handled well. There's good texture in the wood, nice color harmony even between the sky and the buildings themselves. There's a lot of elements that work here, but need a couple of stronger elements to bring it up a category or so.
You gave this an 8.
This was a very nicely done image. There are no areas here that are blown out with their highlights. There's detail in the shadows. The mountains there's quite a distance off, but they're still as sharp as the palms in the foreground here. You've got good texture even in the bushes. You've got a good foreground, middle ground, background here. You've got a real variation of good variety in textures here. You've got the soft bushes in the foreground. You've got the scratchy palm trees, and then the nice smooth mountains in the back, and even the sky is handled well. So this is a good landscape. Again, it's also a strong sense of place. I don't know your part of town that well, but I've driven through here and recognize this for what it is. And again, this would tell me this is home. So I understand the emotion tied to this. So this is a very pleasing image.
You gave this an 8.
This is another image that gives you a sensation. This one gives you more of a sensation of time. This takes back a couple of decades to a simpler time. It's quiet and peaceful. There's good detail inside. You can see all the elements inside hanging, all the Coca-Cola paraphernalia. Even the neon close sign that adds to that adds to the just the overall sensation of this. Uh, the dark sky might have been a little interesting if there was something up there, but also it gives a sensation of serenity and a nice peaceful evening. Um, the water on the ground is a nice touch. It kind of adds to the bottom to the overall with the reflections and whatnot. Kind of ties everything together. But this is sharp focus where it needs to be. It was exposed well. Just very well done.
Gave this a 6.
This is 6. This is a nice representation of this cow lily. Um, Life and Death was a good appropriate title. Um, I've got some problems with the saturation of the color. It looks like it's a little dark. The greens are a little dark for my taste. You could open up those shadows in behind. You don't want to do it too much because you do want to isolate the lily as our subject. Um, but it makes it stand out a little too much. The contrast is a little too high. Um, that's my overall thing that's holding me back from going up a score is the dark parts of the image are just a little too dark. The highlights in the flower handled well. You can see some detail in the highlights, but those darks are just too dark for this.
Give this a 7.
This is a nice mood image also. I like the difference in the textures again, like we had with the other one, where you've got the fence and the buildings that have that weathered wood, and then you have this nice soft brush in the foreground. I would almost crop up a little bit from the bottom, make it more of a panorama than it already is. This is a nice choice the way this is set up, but we could lose some of the dead brush in the foreground and just give the greener vegetation. So you've got the foreground, middle ground, background, and then the fog is a nice touch, gives a nice atmosphere. But the lightness and the brown in the foreground just takes your attention away from the stars of the show, which is more the buildings and the fence. But this was a nice, pleasing image.
Gave this a 7.
Give this a 7. This is interesting specimen piece. Uh, nice sharp focus. Some of the highlights are a little blown out. The cat in the way doesn't help. There's interesting colors in this, but it looks like it could be a little soft focus, or maybe that's just what's in the head of the animal here. But it's kind of a static image. There's not a story being told here. Maybe a tilt to make it look like it was in motion might have helped a little bit, but just kind of, like I said, just kind of static image. But the blues and the whites together are very pleasing. It was handled well.
Gave this an 8.
This is a nice close up of this flower. You've got good texture within the flower itself. Nice use of depth of field where the background is blurred to make the subject stand out. The highlights aren't blown out. The only place where there's no detail is in the darkest part of the flower, and that's going to be tough to get light into. But you've got I've got iris here at my house that do that. You can see kind of sparklies in the iris, and those are also well represented. You've got the petals in the top and the back that act as leading lines that bring your attention in the center of the flower, and the veins of color in the yellow part also bring your gaze into the middle. So there's a lot of strong compositional elements here. The colors work together with the greens and the yellows and the blues. Just there's a lot of composition and color and presentation that went into this. This is a nice choice.
You gave this a 7.
I'm a sucker for fireworks pictures also. I love the part of the display at the bottom and then the airbursts up above. I love the palm trees against it. This could have done with a tighter crop, kind of isolate the fireworks themselves. There's a lot of negative space, which I think detracts from this. But this was handled well as far as the exposure and the focus. There's just some compositional elements that could be changed to make this a stronger image.
You give this a 7.
This was an interesting piece. I would have liked to seen a little more blue in that sky, bring the temperature down a little bit to match the color palette of the rest of the image. Maybe move the camera to the right a little bit to get more of the fish on our left. I think you'd still see enough of the fish on the right body, where you're just getting the back of the fish on the left. It's not as strong a story as if you could see more of both fish together. But these are placed well together. They're feeding off of each other as far as composition. But it's just a little undersaturated. We could do with a little more pop of color.
Okay. That was the last one in this category. So now let's do the awards. This is Translucent Tide with Reflection. Excellence Award advanced Craig Toms. Excellence Award to be Young and Fearless, Vita Priester. Excellence Award First Rainbow Bridge, Sharon Hadley. Congratulations, Sharon. Excellence Award
Thanks.
Jewel Irish, also Sharon Hadley. Honorable mention Comfort Velvet Red Rose, James Watt. Honorable mention Beach Walk by Vita Priester. Honorable mention Monterey Bay Aquarium Jellyfish, Vita Priester. Perseids Milky Way by Christy Andersons. Honorable mention Waiting for Dad, Michael Rankowski. Honorable mention Desert Contrast, Greg Lilly. Honorable mention Closed, Michael Rankowski. Honorable mention Young Joshua Trees Among the Rocks, Sharon Hadley. Okay, so now on to nature. What are you looking for when we get to nature, Andrew?
Nature, I'm looking for technical excellence here because we're not going to be able to do a lot of processing in nature. We're going to have to work with what's in front of us. We're going to use our tools like composition and presentation. We're going to look at color balance, focus. Again, we don't want blown out highlights or shadows that are too dark. And just overall impact and telling me the story of what we're seeing in front of us here.
And we have 15 in this category. You gave this one a 7.
I did. This is a nice image of our pelican friend here. I think this could have been a tighter crop from the left, made it more of a skinny one, and also bring in the side of the frame from the right. I would get rid of that the building completely, at least that tall building completely. That's very, very bright and it competes for attention. It's the brightest part of the image. It takes away from us looking at our pelican here. The pelican was exposed properly. It's in focus. It's very sharp. I like the different light textures and shades that we have here. And the waves in the background, they're out of focus, but I like the balance of the blue with the brown and the feathers. It's kind of a nice color harmony.
Okay, you gave this a 7.
It's also a nice capture of this crab. It's unfortunately competing with all the colors and textures of the rock in the background. With the rock being wet, it's especially sharp or especially shiny, as is the crab, and that actually helps the colors of the crab pop out, but it's also making the colors in the rock stand out. I would have done a closer crop on this. You've got a light area on the far right hand edge of the frame that's distracting, and in the bottom left corner you've got some kelp or seaweed or something there that a friend of mine, Dan Holmes, would call it, you need a little digital landscaping here. You want to get rid of that by cropping it out. More of a rectangular square crop on this would have been more flattering for the crab and A little too much open space on the left.
Give this a 6.
This is a nice image. It's a nice story captured here. Uh, Biggest thing that held me back is the extremes in exposure. Uh, Got some blown out highlights, especially in the wings of the bird on the right, and you got some very, very dark darks in the side. Uh, Interesting story with the motion of them and them interacting with each other. The reflection of the bird on the left was very artistic and nicely done, but the difference in tonal values between the darks and the lights, and then the loss of detail in the blown out highlights and dark shadows just took this out of a higher category for me.
Give this a 7.
This is a nice storytelling image, but this here also, it's the highlights need to be brought down a little bit. The brights are distracting and take our attention away from our friends. Nice job of the angle on these, where you've got especially the our buddy here on the right. He's backlit, and it's kind of giving him edge light around the side of his head, whereas his fur is lighting up. You've got enough detail in his face, you can see him, but it kind of frames his face, which was a nice touch. Um, but the bright areas around it, the vegetation is very distracting and pulls my gaze away from the animals. Um, but there are some good elements here.
Give this one a 7.
This one is the other end of the spectrum. It's a little dark, a little muddy. You could add a little saturation to this and pull up the shadows to give this a little more pop. Um, Took me a minute to look in and see what the actual what what was going on in the image here. It took me a minute to see the birds. It's an interesting subject. The variety in the textures is interesting, but just the exposure needs to be helped out a little bit here to help us see more into the image and help us see what we're looking at.
You gave this a 7.
Same reason here that the shadows could be opened up a little bit and a little more pop given to it. The background is a little light and kind of competes with the foreground of the milkweed and the larvae here. If we open up the shadows a little bit and maybe a half a stop or so, bring the exposure up a little bit, I think you have a lot more pop and a lot more impact in this image. The composition is pleasing. I like the rule of thirds here and the way the branches are in the frame. But the way it's presented here is just a little muddy and needs a little more snap to it.
Okay. You gave this one a 7.
This is a nice serene presentation here. I would have brought up the contrast, especially in the background. Uh, in a landscape like this, you're going to want to have everything sharp. I don't think you have any distracting elements necessarily, so I'm going to want to see some detail and some sharpness on that far hillside and those far trees, and then also the clouds. You got a gorgeous sky here. I think you need to exploit that. So I would bring up the sharpness and contrast in the far background. But I like the different colors you have here. You've got the yellow and green in the middle ground that are reflected in the water, and the water kind of fades off to the blue and goes off to the rocks here. You might also want to open up the shadows in the rocks a little bit to make those give those a little more pop. But this is a good strong start for a very nice landscape.
Give this one an 8.
This is a nice story being told here. You've got interesting shape as far as the group of the animals here. Um, the exposure is handled well. There's nice sharp texture throughout the landscape and also in the bison here. Nice colors. You've got the harmony of the golden brown in the brush behind that kind of bring your eye back and tie into the fur and the animals here. Um, Pleasing sky. Nice time of day. There's good texture throughout, and just a lot of elements here that work well together to make a real strong image.
Sorry.
Let's see.
You gave this one a 9.
I did. How do you go wrong with this kind of with subject matter here? This is called being at the right place at the right time with your camera and knowing how to use it. You've got the sun coming up behind us here and um, exposing the rocks here. You've got good use of shadow. There's nothing blown out. There's nothing too dark in the shadows. You've got texture throughout the image. You've got the light hitting the foreground here that's really making it pop, but it's also standing out against the mountains across the dry lake in the background that really show you who the star of the show is here, but also it gives you an idea what's in the background there. The colors and texture and the sharpness in the background also give you an idea of what's back there, a good sense of place, but it doesn't compete for your attention. Just everything about this was handled properly.
You gave this one an 8.
This had the impact, just absolute cuteness. The subject is nice and tack sharp, good use of depth of field blur in the background. Um, you've got the black and white of the bird that match with the kind of match with the sand in the foreground, but it makes it stand out against the vegetation in the background. Um, so it's a good presentation. You might have cropped off a little more on the left-hand side of the frame, a little too much negative space for my taste. Maybe bring down the top a little bit, and that would make a little bit of stronger image. But as it is, this is well done.
Gave this an 8.
Uh, Same reasons. Nice, good focus where there needs to be, but there's a good blur in the background that makes it fall off as you gaze into the image. The reflections were handled well. There's good texture in the feathers of the bird. I like the way they're facing the same way and they're walking along. It tells me they're out looking for lunch, and it was well handled. Only change I would make is maybe give them a little room to walk out on the right-hand side, open that side up a touch. But other than that, this was well done. Maybe crop off a little bit of the top of the frame. We don't need to see all that water, but this was well done.
You gave this a 7.
Gave this a 7. This one almost showed too much. The star of the show, it's a competition between the rainbows and the falls themselves. The top of the image, I don't know that we need to see as much of the top as we have there. If we crop down from the top, almost to where the river is at the very, very top of the water, you've got that white patch of dirt at the top of the cliff that's competing. If you crop that down, you get rid of most of that, and now we're left with just the waterfall with the gorgeous rainbows, and that would make this a much stronger image. This is a very good, strong start of a great image for it, taking it to a great place.
You gave this a 7.
This is a cute moment captured. Nice choice of a title with the harbor seal doing his yoga. Again, there's too much showing at the top. I think that the texture of the plants up there and the brighter areas compete for my attention with the subject of it. We can bring up some of the saturation in the seal itself. You give that a little more pop. You got some of the highlighted areas that are a little washed out. But I think if we bumped the saturation in the seal and got rid of the distracting elements in the top, I think this would make for a stronger image.
Sorry. You gave this one a 8.
This is a nice storytelling image. Took me a second to find out what I was looking at, and the title absolutely helped with drying the wings. I see what's going on now. Same thing here. This bird is nice and sharp, good focus, good detail in the lighter and the darker parts of the image itself, not just the bird, but the rock it's standing on. I like the texture of the leaves and the colors against the blur background. but you've got some color elements in the leaves that are complementary with the surroundings. So I think the whole image itself works together, but then you've got the action of the image itself telling a story. And I think everything works together to make a strong capture here.
And then you gave this one a 9.
This one, I think is probably my favorite out of the category. Um, nice selective focus. Everything is sharp. Everything is exposed well. I can look up inside the cap and see what's going on in there, but it's out of focus enough where it doesn't take my attention away from the stem and then the cap of the mushroom. I love the vegetation around it is rendered well and shows the delicateness of what's on the forest floor here, but it's not sharp enough where it's competing for my attention. This mushroom's the star of the show, and is treated as such. The color in the background works well with the colors in the mushroom, so everything just came together in this just to make a wonderful piece.
Okay, now for the winners. That was the last one in the category. You've got Excellence Award, Sunrise at Zabriskie Ridge, Michael Rankowski. Excellence Award, Shroom, Michael Rankowski. Honorable mention, Beautiful Herd of Yellowstone by James Watt. Honorable mention, Chick Peeking Above Foliage by Brian Vandermark. Honorable mention, Wimble and Marble Goodwit, Vita. And Young Comrade Drying Wings, Vita Priester. And honorable mention, Oceanside by Justin Schneider. Okay, now on to PJ. What are you looking for in PJ, Andrew?
Storytelling is probably the peak here. That's going to take precedence over things like such as composition or or technical excellence necessarily. I mean, you still want those elements there, but I think the the storytelling and the impact of the image are going to take precedence over technique and lighting and whatnot. You can only deal with what you're given in the situation, and how you handle it is what's going to make an image stand out and help you tell your story.
Okay, there's 19 in this set. You gave this one a 7.
I gave this a 7. It's a cute story with the dog looking up at his friend there, competing for the attention. I'm not seeing a ton of story here. That's about where the story ends. You do have some sense of place here, but I would like to see a little more of the shadows opened up on this. You can do that in this category to kind of give it a little more contrast and make him pop against the background. But it's a serene scene, but in a photojournalism category, we're looking for a story and some action on what's going on. So that's where I found it fell short on that.
This got an 8.
This is a nice storytelling image. You've got a good sense of place. You've got an idea of what's going on. The colors pop well. You've got whatever the cups are in the foreground that they're working on. He's teaching the young man to do something. You've got the background you've got the pigeon cruising around getting lunch. You've got the chickens up on the bricks, and then off to the side, you see people around. I'm going to guess some kind of market setting. Kinds of gives an interesting story. Makes me want to know more about what's going on. But with them, with their activity, with whatever they're working on, with their cups in front of them, this is a really interesting capture of the story going on here.
This you gave an 8 to.
This I gave an 8. Took me a minute to realize what I was looking at, and then the title was absolutely helpful. Cottonwood Fire Camp. As you have out there, we've got our share of brush fires out here, and this is a thing. So you've got the fire in the background telling you what's going on, but you've got the tents here from the firefighters that are here in the park, hopefully resting. But you can see what they're resting from in the background. So even without the people being there, between the title and then the elements that are here, this is a strong storytelling image.
Gave this one a 7.
This is interesting capture of these folks having a good time at some kind of event, but tough to see exactly what's going on. A lot of the highlights are blown out, which you can pull the highlights down in this category to help. I think giving us more of the frame would have told the story, give us an idea of where they are and what they're doing and why are we celebrating. We got some of the flags in the background that suggest part of what the event is, but I think a little more of the scenery would have helped us see, and it's kind of an awkward crop on the folks in the image here. A little more of the scene would have helped tell a little more of the story.
Gave this a 6.
This is just kind of again a real static image. There's not a lot going on here. Not really sure what our takeaway is from this. The color balance is nice. You got the reds and the greens that work well together. The lines of the siding and then on the roof are interesting against the bricks, and then you got the vertical elements of the tools leaning up against the building, and then the pole going through the horse. Maybe coming a little more to our left to show more of the horse's face would have helped, but it's just not a real strong story here. And in photojournalism, story is the key.
Gave this a 9.
9, this is all about the storytelling. This is, if you look all the way around, you see what's going on. You've got the different, are we calling them rodeo clowns these days? Bullfighters. All the people inside the arena, they're all facing into the image, and all their gazes are leading you into the frame. Nothing takes you out of it. You've got the cowboys up on the rail in the background, taking the pictures, watching the story. You've got the rider that's down, and they're coming to save him. Everything's going well here. You've got the trailers in the background that actually block out what can be distracting scenery. I go to some of these events, and there's just stuff in the background that's ugly and takes your view away. But this is a great camera angle to isolate the action here and keep your gaze inside, and all the storytelling elements are here.
Okay, you gave this a 9.
This was just phenomenal image. The impact, the lighting on this was incredible. If that's just his cell phone light that's lighting up the man pouring into the barrel, then that's just an incredible capture and exposed well. You've got the texture differences between the wood of the barrel and the bands around the metal bands. You've got the metal of the equipment behind that are textured also. The silver in the equipment that works well with the gray and the blue in these guys' shirts. And then that's a very pleasing brown in the wood of the barrel, that all those colors working together, and the spotlight and the different lighting elements where the edges are dark, but where the action is light. It just, this is well lit, and especially for photojournalism where you have no control over the lighting. You captured a scene very well, and there's detail everywhere there needs to be. This is well done.
You gave this a 9 also.
This is another one where there's some lighting going on here that's not part of the overall subject. You've got a campfire going there on the beach, and that's not necessarily the idea of what's going on. Obviously we're looking at the rocket launch, but it gives a sense of place. I stand in my yard and I watch the rockets go off all the time. I would love to be at the beach to watch one go, and this is exactly why. This is the perfect time of day where you've got the sun's just gone down, and there's just a little bit of light and color left in the sky. But the rocket's up high enough that it's catching the full use of the sun. You've got good texture in the sand that shows you where you are, but it's not competing. The person pointing is perfect. So just all the elements. You got the people looking at the rocket, so it just keeps your view within it. All the elements here to tell a complete story here. This is well done.
You gave this a 7.
Um, this tells more. I suspect this is the same event from the other picture. This does tell more of the story. Um, I would have done a different crop on this. I would have moved the camera a little bit to the left. You don't need to see as much of the parade behind what's going on here, and the vehicle here is just at the end of the frame here. You want to give it room to come out of the frame to us. And so if you moved the camera, if you panned to our left, you would get rid of some of the little bit of a distracting background and maybe give some breathing room on the left-hand side. There's just too much tension with it this close to the edge. That would have made it a stronger image.
Gave this a 6.
This just doesn't have a story to it. It's artistic, but as far as photojournalism, there's nothing. There's not a lot of nothing really dynamic going on here. There's just low impact on this image. Um, Interesting color balance between the color of the car and then the house behind. But you've got the highlights of the sky that are blowing out. You've got the darks that could be opened up. The shadows around the car could be opened up. Just need a couple of more elements in here to help tell this story. I think that's where this fell short of being a more impactful image.
Okay. You gave this an 8.
This was wonderfully captured. Great timing, nice use of shutter speed where you've got the outfit blurred, but she's sharp. You've got good use of depth of field where you've got the city and the water that fall off and focus in the background, but there's enough detail where you see the clouds in the sky that help tell the story. You've got the billowing clouds behind, but it kind of lends itself to the billowing of her dress. So you've got some elements that bounce off each other and work well. Good placement of her in the frame. You've got her looking out. Just there's a lot of elements that work to make this just a wonderful image.
Gave this an 8.
This is an interesting storytelling image. You've got the line of the pigeons that lead up to the gentleman in the tent. So that's a good leading line and helps keep your gaze inside. You've got the buildings around that have the geometric shapes and also with the stones on the sidewalk, but then you've got the curvy lines of the tent. So you've got kind of a contrast in textures and shape here that tell an interesting story. And you got the people walking by him on the sidewalk like he's not even there. So this kind of it tells a strong story. And then you've got the elements of a wall and the trees and whatnot that not sure where this was taken, but you know it's I know it's not my neighborhood, so it does give a sense of place.
Ouch, sorry. So sorry.
No worries.
You gave this an 8.
This is also a nice use of place and textures and lines to tell the story. You've got her sitting there with the window behind her is a nice framing element. Again, you've got enough elements of the city around her that this I'm going to suspect this is probably not in the United States. You've got the sign off to the right that's not in English. I don't know what that is. French, maybe. Again, sense of place. If anything about this bothers me is her being dead center of the image. We could have cropped off a little more of I would have cropped on the right-hand side for this, but this has a lot of elements to make it a strong story.
You gave this a 6.
This just has a lack of story to it, unfortunately. I think this needs people to give us an idea of what's going on here. The colors are kind of muddled. I could use some contrast. Almost too tight of a crop. I'd give it a little more breathing room on the left, and maybe also give us a little more idea of what's going on in the environment to tell us what's going on and why we're here. There's some interesting elements. I like the car in the distance framed by the porch. That's kind of interesting. But just not a lot of clues here to tell us what's going on here. This is just not the strongest story I've seen.
Sorry. You gave this an 8.
This was very well handled. I like the use of selective focus here. Um, you see the movement in his hands. You see movement, what's going on behind him. Uh, but his face is tack sharp, and you're just drawn to his eyes and his expression. And whatever he's doing, he is concentrating on it. Um, I enjoy the colors. You could see enough of his clothing to, it's some kind of festive or ceremonial outfit that he's wearing. Um, Interesting use of the background to kind of, again, it gives us a sense of where he is. Um, and it's almost a lack of detail in the back that makes him stand out and makes him the star of the show. The title absolutely helps with what's going on. Um, but it's an interesting piece that isolates him and gives him a lot of personality. So this is handled well.
You gave this a 9.
Again, there's just like with the other image, there's all the elements working together. The people on the left are facing into the center. The people on the left, the right are facing into the middle. All eyes are on the rider here, and the Bronx up in the air. Um, just enough slow shutter speed where you've got some movement in the hooves below, but everything else is tack sharp. You've got the trailer parked back there again that's blocking out and isolating the riders and the people standing around it. The lines with the railing around the arena are nice. And you've even got the chaps on the right or there on the left with the was the Kessler Rodeo that gives a nice sense of place. All these elements put together just tell an incredibly strong story. This is right place, right time with the right equipment and awareness of the event to know what was coming and be ready to capture it.
You gave this an 8.
This was just fun. What's not to like about a bunch of people on a roller coaster? The sky's blown out, but I kind of like it in this case because it makes the roller coaster and the car and whatnot stand out. You've got the expressions of the people that are on there of varying enjoyment. You've got the first and the very front on our left that is just not having a good time. People are just laughing, having a good time. It's kind of a good variety of emotions shown here. So there's a lot about this that tell us what's going on. It's not cramped up it's not cropped at the very edge of the car. So you got some room for it to come down out of the frame. You know which way it's going to come. This was very well handled from a lot of aspects.
Then you gave this an 8.
Um, Great storytelling here. We know what happened. The horse is not having a good time, and now the rider isn't either. Um, the riding on the side of the obstacle there helps give a really good sense of place. Only change I would have made, maybe, I don't know if you need the left hand side, but maybe that ties it together why the post is there. Um, I would have been curious to see it without that post just to see if that helps focus on the action itself. Um, the only detriment I can see here is you got some highlights that are a little blown out. If you could have brought those down, it would have been a sharper image and maybe open up some of the shadows, especially the left-hand side of the horse. But minor changes. Other than that, this is a very strong, good storytelling image.
You gave this an 8.
This is a good capture of the sport. Nice shutter speed where the parts of the image need to be sharp are. Um, this is tough to do. You've got a large dynamic range here as far as the exposure. You've got some bright highlights and some dark shadows. Once they go up inside that wave, it's real dark in there. And so this was a tricky situation that I think was handled well. You've got good detail in the face. You've got a blur to give the sensation of motion, but enough sharpness where you've got a good idea what's going on. Again, room to ride out of the image, and a good placement of the rider in the rule of thirds. This was well handled.
Okay. That's the last one in this image. So let's go through the awards. Excellence Award, Tough Work, Greg Lilly. Excellence Award, Topping Up the Cask, Michael Rankowski. Excellence Award, Look Up in the Sky, It's a Bird, Chris Anderson. Excellence Award, Wild Out of the Chute, Greg Lilly. Honorable mention, Grandpa is Leading the Handicraft, James Watt. Honorable mention, Cottonwood Fire Camp, Greg Lilly. Honorable mention, Join Me Jumping, James Watt. Honorable mention, on house number 2, Michael Rankowski. Honorable mention, on house number 1, Michael Rankowski. Honorable mention, The Priest is in Session in Romania, James Watt. Honorable mention, Roller Coaster Mission Beach, Vita Priester. Honorable mention, Horse Jump Fail, Dean Campbell. Honorable mention, Holding My Breath in the Curl, Chris Anderson. Now we'll go on to our last category here, which is monochrome. And what are you looking for in monochrome? And we have like 19 in this one.
Okay. Monochrome, I'm going to look for a full use of tonal range. I want to see dark shadows and whites, because that's all you've got to deal with in this category. That's going to be telling your whole story, whether it be the texture, contrast, something against another to tell us what to look at. Where in the other categories we use colors to tell the story, we don't have that here, but there can be a lot of richness and a lot of information in the gradations between black and white.
Okay, you gave this an 8.
Gave this an 8 for the reasons we just went over as far as the textures that went on here. You've got the texture in the wood, the texture in the lizard, that all work well together. They contrast against each other, but they work well together. You've got the depth of field with the background, that it's an interesting texture in the background, but it's not competing with what's going on here. This our friend's looking right at us here. You've got good catch lights in the eyes, sharp focus where there needs to be, and not sharp focus where it shouldn't be. This is nicely done.
You gave this a 7.
This is 7. Kind of would have liked to see a little more detail in the sky. I think this could work with a tighter crop, to be honest with you. I think the story is the fishing and the waves and the clouds, the highlights and the rocks and the shapes. While they're a leading line, I think too much of them takes away from our subject, and I'd like to see it cropped up quite a bit from the bottom. Also, it looks like the horizon might have a little bit of a tilt to it, so we want to watch that. But there are some nice elements here. I love the story of the fisherman here with those waves. That's a dramatic day with that sky. So if we make that sky pop a little more, that would really add to the story here.
Okay. You gave this a 7.
This was an interesting effect here. I think the brightness of the grass is it takes away from the story. I think that the headstones are the story here. Excuse me. And I think the treatment here downplays the object of the story here. Um, I would have been interested to see maybe a skinnier crop, if that makes sense. Cut off a little bit. The placement of the tree is nice. So if we could bring in a little bit off the right, that could help a little bit. But there's not enough detail in the headstones to help us see what's going on with what the object of the image is here.
You gave this a 9.
This just there's everything with the expression, the focus of the lady here against the background. The background is nice and soft, but you can see what's back there. Gives you a sense of where she is. She's doing something there, and you've captured a moment here. All of the elements that make a great photojournalist picture were done here, and I love the use of black and white here. She's framed against the texture of the building, and that helps her stand out because her headwear there is dark enough that it contrasts against the brighter part of the building and really makes her stand out. There's just everything works together here to make a fantastic feeling here.
Okay, you gave this a 7.
This has a lot of graphical elements to it. Interesting concept. I think this could have helped. You could have helped the geometry of this. You've got the converging lines that go towards the top. I think that could have been fixed to kind of straighten it out. And again, this is a image where we're missing part of the stories. An object on the table, maybe, or a person or two in the frame could have helped give us a little more of a story and see what's going on here. And it also kind of feels like the table is smack in the middle of the image. I would have cropped one side or the other out to make it a little off center.
You gave this an 8.
This is another image where the expression and the posture and the contrast of the sharpness of the subject against the background really make this pop out. There's a little bit, the shadows are a little too dark, could have been pulled up a little more. But this is nicely handled. It's a pleasant image. She's got a great expression, holding something in her hand. I'm not sure what the story is going on here, but this is a nice piece to show a place, and I think you've captured a character from this place very well.
You gave this a 7.
This is another image that's in search of a story it's exposed very well. Good detail in the shadows, good detail in the highlights. It's a nice sky. It's sharp focus throughout. But just kind of a static scene. I think it needs a little more clues to tell us what's going on here. Maybe people around it to give it a story, or maybe more of the scene to show what we're seeing here. Technically, it was handled well. It's missing part of the creativity and style to give it a center of interest.
This one is you gave a 7 to.
This is a nice architectural piece. I like the converging lines that disappear up into the sky. I like the patch of I'm presuming blue sky there on the left that kind of add interest to an otherwise large amount of negative space. I don't think we need as much at the top of the image as we have there. I think that could have been cropped down from the top and cropped in a little bit from the sides to make this a taller, skinnier image. I think that would have emphasized the feeling of height in this structure. And also, it's a little muddy. You could have given a little more pop with a little more contrast to it. But this is a good, strong start.
Next, you gave this one a 7.
This is a nice use of foreground, middle ground, background. You've got a nice placement of the subject here that's not dead center. I would have almost cropped some of it off the bottom and then part of the rocks on our right. I think that would help the subject stand out a little more. The horizon looks like it's tilting a little bit to the right, which could be corrected easily. Some shadows could be opened up on the boat to give us a little more detail what's going on in there. But this is a nice strong start. It's an interesting subject. It's one of those images that I see this and I'd like to know more of the story. This is an interesting capture of a really cool place, and a couple of tweaks to it could make it a real strong image.
You gave this a 9.
This just has all of the elements. It has the impact, it has creativity, it has composition. This just screams Fibonacci sequence. This was a nice choice of a monochrome image to emphasize the texture and the lines throughout it. This just draws your gaze into the middle of the frame and keeps it there. It doesn't let you get out of it. I don't know. The lighting was exercised well. I'm not sure what control we had over it, but it was used well. Where we've got good detail throughout the image in the darks and the light parts of the image. This is handled very, very well.
You gave this one a 9.
This one has just storytelling and tonal range, and this just has all of the elements we've been looking for. We've got an interesting story being told. The title is a huge help to help me understand what's going on. Again, you've got the depth of field working. We've got the bokeh in the background that's blurred enough where it's not competing for our attention, but it gives you an idea that room goes back in a ways. And but it's darkened enough where the subject is standing out. You've got whatever is that, if that's steam or dust or whatever the cloud is behind him, that helps his face stand out and isolates him. You've got the tools of craft sitting around him that complete the scene. The texture and the tones in his clothing. His attention is on what he's doing. This checks off all the boxes as far as an excellent image. This is really nicely done.
Gave this a 8.
Nice capture of a wonderful place. The texture in the sand was done very, very well. I love the split between the light and the dark. You've got a fascinating sky in the background, and then the distant mountains that are rendered well. You've got the S curve coming through, which is always a pleasing compositional element. Starting up here on the upper left-hand corner, and it's a nice easing curve down and brings us into the image. The texture of the sand here keeps our gaze in there. The only thing that I would have been interested to see done differently is see if we can bring up some of the shadows over on the right-hand side of the image, and maybe that could add to it. But as it is, this was nicely done.
You gave this one a 7.
This is an interesting capture. I think this would have worked better if we had quite a bit of the bottom cropped off. I think there's an overabundance of the lighter rock. I think a lot of the story is in the water. The building in the back in the distance is kind of interesting. If this was cropped up from the bottom, that would play a bigger part in the story. But the white is also very distracting. I think if we cropped a lot of the bottom out, we opened up some of the darker areas of the rocks in the water, I think it would be an interesting landscape, and then maybe working on some of the detail in the sky. But this has a lot of the pieces there for a really nice image, just needs a little work done to it.
This you gave a 7 to.
This is a nice capture of the bighorn sheep here. Um, the highlights are blown out. That's the only problem I have with it. Could do with a bump in contrast. Um, maybe a little bit of a crop if we get rid of a little of the top of that and maybe open up the left-hand side to give him some breathing room on the left. That would have made for a better compositional choice. Um, it's a little noisy. I'm not sure if some denoising would help with this, but there is some detail in the fur. I do like that, but bring down some of those highlights and I think you're going to have a much stronger image.
You gave this a 7.
This is a fascinating image, gives a nice sense of place. I would like to see a little bump in the detail in that sky. That's a gorgeous sky, and I think the billowing the clouds would work well against the structure of the rocks and whatnot. Um, that would help. I would crop a little bit of the hillside on the left here. I don't know that that's adding anything to the story. The star of the show is the structure, and I think if we can concentrate a little more on that, it would help. But this is a capture. It looks to be a real cool place.
You gave this an 8.
This just is wonderful storytelling. You've got the people sitting here on the rocks with the gaze out to the water, and then you've got the leading lines of the pier itself and the lights on the pier that keep our gaze. Take it right in the middle of the image, and the waves crashing against the pier there. Really nicely handled. It's nicely composed. We could have maybe gotten rid of a little bit of the image on the left. There's not a lot of storytelling going on there. But the rest of it was really well represented. Maybe bring up a little bit of the shadows on the water on the left-hand side, where it's not quite as contrasty, but this gives a nice sense of serenity and peace and a good sense of the place where we are. And I'd like to be there.
You gave this an 8.
This was an interesting image. I have no idea how it was done, but you know what? The creativity on this is off the charts. This was a maker who took a vision and put it onto the screen. I don't know if they recognized a scene or if they saw something or a combination of elements, and they said, "What if I did this and this and this?" And this is what we came up with. I applaud the tenacity to see this through and get an image that works out well. You've got nice use of texture, nice use of lines. The elements in the bottom kind of give it the starburst effect, and then the light coming through just strengthens that starburst effect. So I think this is really well done. I like the color harmony on this. A lot of elements that are very, very strong on this. I give this an 8.
And then this you gave an 8 also too.
I did. Again, I'm a sucker for the texture in the sand. And we've got different textures. It's kind of interesting in a very small amount of place. You've got the very sharp edges of the kind of in the upper right quadrant. As you come down towards the bottom of the element on the right-hand side, it's the waves are a little smaller. I'm guessing the wind changed around somehow. And then you've got the swirls and just the overall shapes of the hill. Your eyes take a walk around this frame, and there's different lines and different shapes and different directions. And this is the right time of day to be here. The shadows really accentuate the texture, and this was done very well. This is a great choice for a monochrome image.
And then the last one you gave an 8 to.
This again, a nice use of monochrome. The tonal values are handled well. The highlights are not blown out. The shadows to be opened up a skosh, especially the door is a little dark, but not horrible. The sky is rendered well. It's kind of an interesting contrast on the wispiness of the clouds against the pockmarks on the building itself. You can read just enough of what's going on in the building, gives you the sense of where we are and the sense of desolation here. But this was handled very, very well. I gave this an 8.
And now for the awards. Excellence Award through poor vision I can braid, James Watt. Excellence Award, Spiral Staircase, Point Loma Lighthouse, Vita Priester. Excellence Award, Professional Knife Smith in Tokyo, James Watt. Excellence Award, Fading Shades, Sharon Hadley. Honorable Mention, Attitude, Dean Campbell. Honorable Mention, The Middle East Beauty, James Watt. Honorable Mention, Dunes, Dean Campbell. Honorable Mention, Finding the Time to Talk, Chris Anderson. Honorable Mention, The Wave, Michael Rankowski. Honorable Mention, Garage at Death Valley Junction, Michael Rankowski. And honorable mention, Ethical Society St. Louis, Justin Schneider. Then we're back to the beginning there. Now, we did have a special theme competition in May. It was called Motion, and we found that it was a harder theme. So I'm just going to run through all of the 17 images that we had submitted for the contest. So they're all winners just for attempting this theme. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and Craig, if you have anything else to say, I do have a question for Dean. Where were those dunes, Dean?
Those were at Imperial Dunes.
Ah, okay.
Well, Andrew, thank you very much. That was an excellent job that you did for us tonight. We had a really good crop of images, I must say.
You did.
Yeah, there were some great images in there, and we really appreciate you taking the time. You just did a great job for us.
Thank you.
So,
Glad to do it.
and Darcy, thank you for putting this together. Also, this is a lot of work on your part, and we really appreciate it. It's quite a job to put these together.
Well, I also have Deb's help. Deb has also been a great help in this, and it's been great. And I want to compliment Sharon, one of our newer members who won more excellent award. And Sharon, you'll be playing with the big boys. You'll be in the advanced division. So good job and keep up the effort.
Way to go, Sharon. All right. Anybody else have anything you'd like to add tonight before we close it out? All right, we're all good to go. Well, Shirley, thank you for being here tonight, and all of our new members as well. Thank you all for being here, and we'll see you all in September. Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.